Hello my friends, and welcome to another Warhammer 2 battle replay, this time on the Void of Hell Fen, a map that I seem to get quite a bit lately. I am playing the Vampire Counts, and my opponent, Caranthir, is going to be bringing Bretonnia with King Lewin Leonker, and I'm bringing perhaps a very underappreciated lord, one of my favorites in the moment right now, and it is, of course, the Necrarch Vampire Lord. He is from the Bloodlines update, so he's not super generic, but he's not a legendary lord either, but let's have a look at him. So a lot of people, from what I've been hearing, they kind of consider him to be like a budget Manfred, where Manfred von Karstein can do pretty much the same role, cast a lot of spells. He has a dragon mount, very good weapon stats, very high health. But I want to look at this guy. So because he gets the dragon, he gets the standard, very high weapon strength of 520, as well as the dragon's breath attack. But he does come with something that I think makes him a little more useful than Manfred in terms of casting spells. So the Necrarch Vampire Lord gets a few lores of magic here. So he has the Curse of Undeath, so he has the Lore of Vampires attribute. Life Leeching, so the Lore of Death attribute. As well as Wild Hearts, so from the Lore of Beasts. So it gives him a lot of magical recharge and power reserves. Every time he casts a spell, he gets more recharge and a little more magic to kind of keep him topped off. And then on top of that, of course, he has the Hunger, Pestilent Breath. I bring him here kitted with Spirit Leech, Fate of Buna, or not Fate of Buna, but Purple Sun Azarius, just in case there's any blobs that form up. Invocation and a Heck and Raised Dead, a pretty core loadout. Sometimes you don't need to even bring Purple Sun. But he also comes with Arcane Conduit. So again, even more magic, and finally he's got Dark Protection here, which is an amazing self-preservation buff. Gives him 22% damage resistance, as well as 24 melee defense, putting him up to 64 melee defense. Pretty good stuff there. And his other advantage over Manfred is that Manfred's special item, I forget the name of it, but it's like his sword. It gives him power recharge rate when he's in melee. But the Necrarch Vampire Lord, he doesn't always need to be in melee. He'll always be generating lots of winds of magic, lots of value. So on top of our build, we also have a Necromancer down here. I like to use these guys just as mana batteries. It's only about 400 gold just to bring Forbidden Rod on them, and then I keep Master of the Dead so that they can kind of give some extra regeneration to units in an area around them. But very cheap. If I lose him, it's no big deal. His whole point is just to kill himself over time anyway using Forbidden Rod. We then have the dreaded Mortise Engine, a very amazing unit here. Can keep your front line alive, can do a lot of damage over time to your enemy's high value units. I love this thing. It's a little bit squishy. It's very vulnerable to missiles. It's a very big target, and it glows, so people are going to see that and be like, okay, I need to take that down. But if you can keep it topped off with, heals and stuff, it can do very well for you. And we also have a Banshee, because Bretonnia is susceptible to terror routes, and I want to have some forms of terror besides just my dragon. So the Banshee is just a nice little version to get that on the ground. She does come with the Screaming Banner, which does lower leadership around her by -4, which is pretty good stuff, especially against low leadership peasants, so hopefully she can keep those out of the battle lines. The front line is entirely a core of 5 units of zombies, just scattered throughout the front ranks. I love using zombies because it's 100 gold each. If you lose them, no big deal. They're just here to take damage and be annoying. And then 2 units of Skeleton Spearmen. I think I have a third unit of Skeleton Spearmen off in the trees here, in case Bretonnia wants to bring any cavalry up in the trees. We can get a very good matchup. I've also brought some Dire Wolves here, so we've got 2 units of Dire Wolves and the Dire Pact, just hiding in the woods here. Very good against large, good at chasing down any archers that Bretonnia might bring. And then we also have 2 units of Blood Knights on either flank. That way that they can compete with Bretonnian cavalry, cycle charge, and infantry. They're very versatile units. As for my opponent, he does bring King Lewin Leonker and 2 units of Royal Pegasus Knights. So I see this and I'm like, oh crap, I only have 1 air unit. It's slower than them. I am screwed if I stay in the air. My Necrarch Vampire Lord would not beat them. So I start off with casting a Spirit Leech on him just to do some damage. Try to start his regeneration. For the rest of his battle line, it's mostly infantry. So he's got some Spearmen at Arms, Battle Pilgrims, Men at Arms with Pole Arms, shields, more Battle Pilgrims, more Pole Arms, more Spears. And then he also has 2 units of Questing Knights, Armor-Piercing Anti-Infantry Knights. I'd probably go with a few of the Grail Knights, perhaps, or maybe some Knights of the Realm for that anti-large. But he doesn't bring any of those today. Very light on the cavalry. And he also has a Damsel of Life over here, looking to keep her knights and her king alive. So we're going straight into the battle. I'm going to try to juke around I've done great damage to Lewin so far. What is that, about 500 damage off of a Spirit Leech? He's going to heal it back, but still, damage is damage. The Pegasus Knights are going to come in, so I'm going to see that there's not really an escape. I just need to engage with my infantry here and get my Vampire Lord on the ground. So as soon as I realize there's no escape, I'm going to pop his buffs. Dark Protection's active. So, I mean, he's going to take damage. He would not win this fight if he was in it for a long time. But the damage resistance and melee defense will keep him alive for a bit longer as he tries to waddle on out of here. Dire Pack in the back here, trying to run around and get some flanks on my enemy. He is going to bring some Questing Knights up there. As the front lines do begin to engage, my Banshee's coming in now. She's hoping to support this front line engagement. I drop on some Battle Pilgrims and then immediately summon some Undead here as all the Questing or Pegasus Knights start swarming me. But I do bring the Skeleton Warriors in on the summon, overcast the Raised Dead, and I'm taking some damage, but I've got the Mortise Engine in here. We've got the regeneration happening, and look at that health pool just regenerating. Over here, I do have my Dire Wolves try to occupy these Questing Knights. And then I do run them back this way once I realize that they can finally get away. I mean, they're doing great damage. Questing Knights are already down to half health on just a couple units of Dire Wolves because of the Dire Pack there. Purple Sun of Xerius coming down now just to kind of kill off some of these Battle Pilgrims here. Keep them off of our lines. Doing some pretty alright damage. They did start to form a blob here. And now the Mortise Engine is going to get a load of value here. And then the back line here, I see that we can catch the Damsel, and Damsels, because they're so light on armor, they are very weak to Dire Wolves and Wolves in general. If you see a Wizard, just send some Wolves on them, and they will die pretty quickly. Their melee stats are not good enough, and their armor is not good enough to keep them alive. So I'm hoping that they'll be able to hold out, take her out. Meanwhile, all sorts of spells and debuffs are being affected. He's using the Sword of Couronne, reducing melee defense and armor for my entire battle line here. But this Mortise Engine, if he can't shut that down, it's just going to keep accruing lots of value. Let's see if I can get it triggered here. It's already done 1,400 damage value. It's caused 6,400 damage just on this little blob here. And on top of that, it's also keeping our zombies alive and our skeletons. So they're regenerating quite a bit. Vampire Lord's going to go in for some cycle charges, see if he can start, beating up King Lewin over here. And what a matchup that is. A dragon versus a hippogriff. Men-at-Arms of Bretonnia. I love this matchup. I think it's one of the funner matchups in the game. I do think if he brought some archers, maybe he could have taken down this Mortise Engine, or maybe some more knights. He focused very heavily on his infantry here, which is alright, but in this melee grind, you need something to take down this Mortise Engine. Either just have Lewin focus it down, or have the hippogriffs. But I can just keep supporting my blob here with lots of zombie summons, lots of heals, so it's a very tough thing to deal with. Had he brought like a different wizard, I think he could cast like some chain lightnings in here, and really just clear out my numbers. My Blood Knights are going to come in, cycle charge into the Questing Knights here, get on the Royal Pegasus Knights as well, and on the charge, they will do a lot of damage. Some more reinforcements are coming in, but we're just ignoring them. Our battle lines have pretty much won on both flanks because I've had my cavalry charging in. Over here, some zombies just fighting Spearmen at arms, not too important. I do try to run my Spearmen at that Damsel alive, see if I can shut her down. She is getting a lot of heals off, so it's a very grindy fight. And he just have this Grow Reliquate, keeping his forces in check, keeping their leadership up, and keeping their immune to psychology, so I can't terror out them. But the Royal Pegasus Knights, caught out by Blood Knights, they're finally going to get dragged down here, as these men-at-arms are actually terrified, so they ran away. But Stand Your Ground was popped. Cast a Dragon Breath attack here on this blob of Questing Knights here, doing amazing damage. Our Necrarch Vampire Lord has, if I can click on him, yeah, 2,200 damage value. He costs about 3,000 the way I kitted him out, but he's definitely proving his worth here. As this one little Bretonnian knight fights off against one skeleton warrior here. Come on, man, you can do it. You can beat that skeleton. That skeleton's like, I'm going to get out of here. Screw this fight. I don't want anything to do with this. So at this point, I see the damsel here. She's basically running away. I should have chased her down here. She can come back and pop some heals, maybe heal herself or heal Lewin another time. But at this point, the Mortise Engine's been going completely unchecked here. It's just able to keep doing damage over time, keep healing my troops. I'm sure some of them are even at their healing caps here. I know my Necrarch is. He's already at his healing cap, so he's regenerated 4,000 health. So, I mean, he's been tanky. He's taken, 3,000 damage, regenerated 4,000 health. That's 7,000 health. Keeps it at about 10,000 total health that he can sit through on that dragon. But at this point, the Mortise Engine is basically just going to be counteracting Lewin's healing. but I think that effect only happens when it's in melee, so it needs to get in melee to actually start draining. 2 Royal Pegasus Knights come back in to save their lord, as all these effects keep popping up and clouding the screen here. But at this point, Blood Knights are in here. Lewin is surrounded. The Mortise Engine is keeping ourselves topped off. That 2 hit points a second really does help over a long course of a game. And yeah, at this point, it's just King Lewin. Necrach here. He's doing some damage. He's getting the Necrach Lord very down. If he can kill the Necrach Lord, I think at that point he'd be set to take out the Mortise Engine. But at this point, his forces are going to rout, and that is the game. So very, very good game to my opponent. I do like the build. The flying build was actually very threatening. It forced me to get on the ground. But I think that's where the vampire accounts can really thrive, especially their lords, because you can just pop summons around themselves, AoE heals, and he's got a lot of mass that he can typically just push through enemy units, as well as his attacks let him do lots of AoE damage. So overall, I like the build. The Battle Pilgrims did alright. I think he would have been a little bit better off, maybe just with some cheap peasant mob, because, I mean, we were just undead. Maybe take out the men-at-arms with shields, and get a couple peasant mob there. Maybe cut the spearmen at arms, because you got the pole arms for dealing with Blood Knights. And maybe just go with some archers, maybe pox arrows, something to debuff my units, as well as get focus fire on something like this trebuchet here. I mean, Lewin himself is very, very expensive. So you got to build the rest of the army around that, as well as having 2 Pegasus Knights. So you definitely pay for that air core. And had I not been able to get to the ground, he would have certainly just killed my lord there. And I think at that point, he would have definitely won the game. So it was a good strategy. I just managed to sneak through it just barely, just thanks to the positioning of the Necroc and that self buff that he has. That damage debuff, the 22% physical resistance or damage resistance, such as magic damage too, and the melee defense is very, very potent. Lets you stay alive a lot longer, and it really stacks with the healing, so it acts as kind of a force multiplier. If we look at the Necroc Lord here, who is, where is he? Right there, the bald gent right here. So of course he also has access to Pan's Impenetrable Pelt and Curse of Anarhir. I don't typically like these that much. This one can be okay, I guess. Curse of Anarhir I could see being more useful because it does give you a melee attack debuff in a huge 40-meter radius, so that's pretty nice. You can also bring School of Leeching. I typically don't. I don't think it's that useful just to reduce your enemy's magic recharge. And you just have Earthing Rod if you do want to overcast and not risk any self-damage, but I think with the healing you don't really need that. It is only 36 gold though, so it's pretty cheap. That's like 2 zombie upgrades. You can also get the Barded Nightmare as well as the Hellsteed, but I think he really just shines on this dragon, because his melee stats aren't that great, even on foot. It's only 50-40, so it's not like amazing, and this gives him a lot of ability. I mean, Scaly Skin gives you that magic resistance. Overall, a Beast of the Lord. If we compare him to Manfred on a dragon here, I think Manfred has slightly better stats, same weapon strength. He does also have all the lore of vampires magic and the lore of shadows, or lore of death magic. So he has a lot more versatility in terms of that. Obviously you don't want to bring 12 spells, that's way too much. He does have Master of the Black Arts, but this is like a weaker Arcane Conduit. Only lasts for 20 seconds compared to the, 30 or 50 seconds of the Necrarch here. Let's check that. Arcane Conduit, 40 seconds on a 90-second cooldown, compared to Manfred's, which is 20 seconds on a 60-second cooldown. So you get a little more value over time with Arcane Conduit over this. But this does have a shorter cooldown time. As for the items, this is the one, Sword of Unholy Power. Gives you extra recharge rate, but only if you're in melee. And he doesn't have the Beast Magic casting ability, so he doesn't get the extra power reserves from that, so that's why I think the Necrarch can be a bit better. But of course, Manfred, if you are going to take him dismounted, he is a beast at 70 melee attack, 480 weapon strength, mostly base damage, not so much armor piercing, but he can still do some work there. I mean, 200 is nothing to scoff at, and of course, better health, armor, speed, everything there. Anyway guys, that was going to be it for the battle replay today, and I will see you on the next one.